Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whisky podcast. I'm joined today, and I'm joined, well, mostly as always, and actually I'm not really joined by him today. Normally I'm joined by Jason Johnston Yellen, my cohort, my business partner, my friend, my everything but my wife, well, my work wife, my road wife. Normally I'm joined by him, but he is actually out in Scotland right now, gallivanting around with our beloved Jess, our sales manager out in the UK, and they are down in Campbelltown at the Whisky Festival. Spent a little time up in Speyside, a bit of time in Glasgow, in Edinburgh as well, just bopping around. And anyway, so here I am, left to my own devices to record this little intro to our first live podcast since COVID. And what's interesting about this one is our last live podcast pre-COVID was with Drammers, and we return again live with Drammers, this time in Chicago, or the first time was in New York. And what was really nice about this is this was an event that Drammers Chicago had put together for Single Cask Nation with our friend Ilhan and Michael Nolan, who I'm sure you've heard us mention his name many times, and Charlie, of course, Charlie Prince, who runs Drammers internationally, and Elijah, our very own Elijah Ammon, who runs Drammers Seattle. So it was a big Drammers event, but they set it up specifically for Single Cask Nation in celebration of, well, really of us having whiskey to sell. So for the past 10 years, we may have been a company for the past 11 years, but for the past 10 years, that's when we really started selling whiskey. So we thank them greatly for putting this event on. It was really nice to get back out onto the road in front of people, recording a podcast, sharing drams with people, and we got some surprises toward the end of this that you're going to want to listen to. A little bit of fun, a little bit of cask selection, and then a little blind tasting going on as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode. Jason will be back with me next week for an episode of Extra Extra. It's all about whiskey. But until then, please enjoy this live podcast recording with Drammers celebrating 10 years of Single Cask Nation selling whiskey. And it was recorded live at Warehouse Liquors in Chicago in the top floor in the little tasting room up there. And again, special thanks to our friends, not just with Drammers, but to Warehouse Liquors as well, our dear friend Gene, our Zach Rye, and of course Armando. So here you go. This is us celebrating live.
Everyone, good evening and welcome to Chicago Drammers. We're very excited tonight to have our good friends from Single Cask Nation to celebrate 10 years of whiskey in the bottle, sharing with the nation. Woo! We're very excited to be here this evening, but before we get started, I want a big special thank you to Zach and Gene with Warehouse Liquors. They've graciously accommodated us here tonight. It's a beautiful space, and we're so glad to be here. Also, I'd like to introduce Charlie, Drammers International. If you got any questions about Drammers anywhere in the world, talk to Charlie. And also, we have representing Drammers Chicago's Elhan. So if you want to talk about local chapter, please talk to Elhan. Get involved. We get together about every 6 weeks or so.
And just so you know, we have members of the club dialed in from all over the country online. That's what the camera's for here. And as we go, we'll try to, if they have questions, we'll try to feed it into this. So, hey, from Brazil, right? We have someone from Brazil. We have people from the West Coast, from New York, from all over. So, yeah. Wow. Holy macaroni.
To introduce the Single Cask Nation team, we have Elijah Amond. Elijah is with he's out of Seattle. He's also the head of Drammers Seattle. So he's a very busy man. Not only is he working for Single Cask Nation, but also for Drammers. Elijah's job is really barrel picks, and he interfaces with various retailers, bars, clubs, which Charlie will talk about a little bit later. Another member of the team that couldn't be here tonight is working from Scotland, and that's Jess Lomas. She's on vacation this week, so that's why she couldn't come out.
She's in Israel.
So, yeah, exactly. Now I'd like to introduce the founders of this fine company who have been providing us with just incredible drams for 10 years now. I'm very blessed to count them as good friends.
Indeed.
Nods head vigorously.
The first man here, you guys say, Michael. This man does not have a Midwest accent. Mr. Jason Johnston Yellen.
Yep. I'm still your son, so it still remains. We both got our hair cut and our beards trimmed.
Well, after COVID, yeah.
I thought you were going to say below the belt buckle. Take it easy. Slow down. We haven't drunk yet.
Then our friend from Connecticut who, if you get him going about Connecticut pizza, he'll never, ever stop.
Because it's the best pizza. Why don't we just sit down and have a talk about
Mr. Joshua Hatton.
Joshua, you know you're in Chicago, right? Yeah.
So, cheers to Michael. I know, please.
Cheers, Michael Nolan.
Loud applause. So, one thing that we didn't tell Charlie, though he found out this afternoon or this evening, is initially this was just going to be a 10-year Single Cask Nation celebration, but we decided to make it a live podcast recording. So the last live podcast recording we did was Drammers, New York, February 2020, and then March 2020 then happened. And so the return back to a live podcast is with Drammers. So please give a really loud round of applause for Drammers, please.
About whiskey for another 30 minutes?
Yeah. How do you feel about bourbon?
All right. So I got to kick it off.
You do.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton. How do I do it?
Just imagine you're in your office.
Right, hold on.
These people are not
I have to
here.
Look into your eyes.
Nobody's. Okay, I'll FaceTime you and then we can do this.
Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whiskey podcast.
I want to sing Islands in the Stream.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just talk about Single Cask Nation and talk about a little whiskey. How about that?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years.
Thank you, Elijah, for pouring. Does everybody have a dram?
So for our friends online, we are tasting the 27-year-old Strathclyde. This is from a first fill bourbon barrel, 46.7% alcohol.
Natalie and Liz are holding up a bottle of it in their...
Hey! Oh. I'm sending you virtual hugs and kisses, Natalie and Liz.
Bless them. 27-year-old Strathclyde, it's one of those interesting things in leading tastings and going out and about in the world, is a lot of tastings traditionally started with the youngest whiskey and moved their way to the oldest. And the thing I tell people continually in tastings is that was to get money out of your pocket, right? Right? The 25 is better than the 21, is better than the 18, is better than the 15, is better than the 12. And so it's all aspirational, right? Oh, I can only afford, oh gosh, back in the day, Joshua. Hi, when did you get here?
Oh, okay.
So back in the day, hi everyone. And so back in the day, you would go from, my seat can't go any lower. Charlie was getting me into trouble for the angles for his camera, for the Drammers at home. This is on its lowest setting, and Elijah increased the height of your stool so that we're sitting.
Wow. Wow.
So that we're eyeballing each other.
5'9" is average. I'm 5'10" and 1/4.
And we know where the quarter goes.
Go easy.
Always the 1/4 with you. And so, really, for a tasting, what you want to be doing is starting with the softest, starting with the most delicate, and then working your way through more challenging pours, more dramatic pours. I'm trying to use the word dram as much as I can since I'm at Drammers. Is anybody picking up on that?
Well, I was saying earlier, your hair is too short for us to call dram golf.
We have failed. We have failed. All right.
You're being dramatic. Just continue, please.
How do we feel about grain whiskey?
All right. So just so everybody's aware, a thumbs up doesn't do well on a podcast.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, so 27-year-old Strathclyde. Strathclyde is from not your hometown, but not too
Neck
far
of the woods,
from you, right?
absolutely. Oh, this is not the thing.
Glasgow?
Yeah. Strathclyde. What month did you say? August.
I didn't say a month.
August of
I
93.
said August.
It's young Elijah's birth month.
There you go.
This is a year that he is looking out for. I didn't know children were born in 93.
Was anybody here born in 1993 or later? 88. Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know why it makes sense, but I'm just, see, there you go. This is just how I ID people. But I can't do math because apparently 1993 wasn't 10 years ago like we all think it was.
It's true. My youngest, born in 2010, May of 2010, just turned 12, which means any cask we find from May of 2010 or 2010 writ large has either turned 12 or is becoming 12 later this year.
Wow.
2010. What were you doing in 2010? I was an old bugger in 2010.
You know what I was doing in 2010?
Me? No, that's the wrong answer. I meant partnership.
Partnership, yes. Yeah,
Me came out very wrong.
I called Jason, well, I won't tell you what I called him, but I called him on Thanksgiving Day 2010 with an idea to start an independent bottling company. And I went through the whole rigmarole. This is my idea. This is what I think.
I thought you said I went through my whole Rolodex, and then I got to the Y in Yellen. And this was the last bugger I could ask.
I should skip it and go straight to the Z, but you know. And so I tell him this idea of starting an independent bottling company, and his response was, "That's really good. You should do that."
You don't want to quote my exact words?
Oh, what were your exact words?
My exact words were, "That's $1 million idea." Back before I knew how hard it was to make $1 million.
But you didn't understand that I was asking you to be a part of it.
No, that's why I said to you, that's $1 million idea. Joshua's going to be rich. I'm going to drink good whiskey at your house.
I'm not rich. Ooh, it got quiet. Everybody, he's not rich. Let's leave.
How to start a whiskey company in 3 easy steps.
So are we enjoying this Strathclyde 27-year-old? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yes, audible.
And the crowd came alive. How is the online enjoying the Strathclyde 27?
People are holding up bottles of their own Single Cask Nation grain whiskeys, and David and Aaron Pollard say that Aaron was born in 1999. So
there you go. Okay, we got a 1999 birth online.
All right.
Since, this is the 10-year anniversary observed party, and maybe not everyone knows, is there any chance you could tell us, kind of go a little more of the origin story? You were touching on it again. You called and said this idea, but you have that idea now. Here we are, 10 years later, with all these bottles. That's I feel like we skipped a few steps.
Right. Step 1, call Jason. Step 2, talk to lawyers. Step 3, profit. It's a story as old as time. It's one of those interesting things where obviously Joshua had the idea. I was very comfortable teaching philosophy, and by comfortable I mean I was happy with my life. I was not financially comfortable teaching philosophy. And so this idea of, well, we like whiskey, we could pull this off, we could do this, we know people in the industry. And then we started talking to people in the industry and saying things like, could we get some casks from you? And then those people saying, I don't sell casks. And I was saying, but you're in the whiskey industry. How can you not sell casks? And they said, because I'm a brand ambassador and I live in a city in America. Like, you're a crazy person. However,
Yes.
there was one brand ambassador who did have a direct line to cask sales. And there is a reason that the Arran finished almost a double maturation.
Almost a double. Well, definitely a double.
Definitely a double
Yeah.
maturation. I can't remember what we've bottled.
8 years,
So.
4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Fuck
That's
it.
a double maturation. Fuck it. Oh,
Fuck it,
dude, that's
Oh,
your
what they
attitude.
say.
That's your
what they-
attitude.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Big Lebowski.
Do what your parents did. Get a job. So, my wife has this brilliant New Yorker cartoon. There's two people, honestly, they're white men, standing at a bar. And one of them says, anything. And the other one says, that reminds me of a scene in The Big Lebowski. This is our life.
This is our life.
Continually.
Yeah.
Continually.
Yeah. So get back to the whiskey.
So Andy Hogan was at Arran. Andy had told us that there was Pinot Noir finishing happening at Arran Distillery.
Hold on. Back it up. We're going to back it up. So
Put a
this is,
pin-
we
my
haven't
pin
told
is in.
anybody this story, actually.
Okay.
So we had connected with Andy Hogan from Isle of Arran Distillers, and first he had said, I have got some serious casks for you. And he gave us samples of Arran matured in Calvados. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes. So Arran matured in Calvados, and it tasted like Calvados, not like whiskey. And so at the time we had said, you know what, we're going to pass on that. What else do you have? And that's when he offered the Pinot Noir finished casks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then 5 years later, we went back to them to see if we could buy those Calvados casks. What? Yes?
What word are you saying?
Calvados? Calvados. It's an apple brandy. Yeah. So, sorry. I just threw out a totally obscure spirit type and assumed everybody knew it. Sorry. Yeah. And so we went back to them and asking if we could buy one of those casks. And they had just made that part of their annual music and malt festival bottling. And so we couldn't get them. So we missed
Isn't that
train.
wild?
Yeah.
But also remember, they must have had maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 Pinot Noir casks.
Yep.
And we tasted through half of them. And it's so interesting within the industry when you get told, these are all sister casks. They're interchangeable. Just taste them as you see fit. Pick whatever one you want. And it's just not the case, right? The distillate can go in on the same day. It can go into the exact same cask type that's at the same number of uses. It can sit in the same place in the warehouse. And something completely individualistic can come out of that cask. I tell that story because that was Kilchoman, right? That was our, we launched with Arran, Kilchoman, and Benriach, a peated Benriach. And so to be told at Kilchoman, yeah, they're sister casks, just pick whichever one you want. They're all going to be the same. And they just were
Wildly
not.
different. Yep.
And I know we're sitting at Warehouse Liquors, we're in Chicago, but it makes me think of Binny's. Binny's released one of the sister casks.
Yes, they did.
Of our original Kilchoman. And it's tasty. It's good.
But I remember why we said no to it.
Right? It was
Still bought a bottle.
It was different. They also bottled it, a year after?
A year after, yeah.
Right? And so it had changed. It had evolved. It was not the same whiskey. And so, I tried to be careful, perhaps Joshua tries to be careful, of not waxing too lyrical, not falling too much into the mythology of whiskey and certainly single casks. And there is a lot of mythology around finding casks in dark corners of warehouses and crawling over casks, and nobody has tasted this since the day the new make went into the cask, and just like starting with the youngest whiskey and ending with the oldest whiskey in a tasting, it's just designed to get money out your pocket. But with that said, it is true that single casks are different. We've tried our best never to use the word unique. And I'm sure if you're an SCN nerd, aficionado, geek, and you go into the archives, I'm sure we've used it somewhere. But we try not to use it. What we describe single casks as are singular moments in time where, when we released the Kilchoman 4-year-old, either people would say to us, I'm not tasting that. Please, keep it down, Nolan.
Sorry.
I'm trying to record a podcast here. This is pro level is happening over here. Thank you. I nearly got a bit Christian Bale on you there. I was starting to feel it. I was warming up.
Okay. You should tell them about where that Pinot Cask from Aaron is today.
We should tell them where the... Yes, we will. Okay, let's circle back to that. Let's circle back to that.
That's good.
So, think about that.
Okay. I know. I don't know where it is. Your house, probably.
I'd be happy if it was my house.
Your basement. All right, so as I was saying, singular moments in time, right? And people with that Kilchoman 4-year-old would come up and say, I'm not tasting that. That's not whiskey, right? Could you imagine, as we sit here in 2022, somebody saying they're not going to taste a 4-year-old Kilchoman, right? Andrew Miller, the Champagne of People, is shaking his head to say that is ridiculous. And so people who did try it would say, oh, that's really good. Could you imagine that at 8? Well, no. We're drinking it right now at 4. Like, this is fucking cracking, right? This is delicious. And so that's one of the things I would say we've tried to do over 10 years is...
Who knows where you'll be at 8?
Right, who knows where you'll be at 8, right? Casks can go off cliffs without, any notice, any warning. So we've always pitched single casks as singular moments in time that are just capturing where that distillery is right now in front of us.
Yeah, I've always compared it to a picture of your kid or a friend or a parent or what have you. You always have to take that second picture because guaranteed they look high as fuck in the first picture. So you take the second picture, right? And so there's your moment in time. And so just like Jason had said...
It is legal in Connecticut, right?
Oh, yeah, it's legal in Connecticut. Not at 4 years old, though.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
And
now I'm with you. Now I get the analogy.
Right,
okay.
but there have been instances, and just really quickly, a more recent example of our Catoctin Creek. Virginia rye, 2 years in New Charred Oak, 2 years in a PX cask.
Heads are nodding in the room.
They're nodding, yes, that's good. Then 2 years in a PX sherry cask that previously held Kilchoman. And the first taste after a few months, well, that's okay. All right, starting to do things. The second one, was that the bad one?
We try not to use the word bad, Joshua, when we're talking about friends of ours who operate distilleries.
It wasn't rising to the challenge.
Not sure we say it like that. It wasn't where we expected it to be, and it was a little bit disjointed.
There you go.
Pro level.
But then over 2 years, the whiskey was doing this, right? Aging is not a linear thing, just like Jason was saying. As whiskey gets older, it doesn't mean it gets better, it just gets more expensive. So the aging really does this, and we just captured...
Perfect on a podcast.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
does hand gesture.
For people who grew up in the 80s, I'm popping and locking. And
apparently disjointing.
And so the point is, we try to capture casks when we think it's delicious. We select for ourselves and our own palates in the hopes that you, the whiskey enjoyer, appreciate our... What are you doing?
I think that was a
What's
sneeze
happening?
from Elijah and not a giggle from Elijah.
I sure hope it was a sneeze and not a giggle.
Wow, sounded like a scoff. All right.
So,
I think you might be right there, Charlie.
Listen, we could talk and talk and talk.
Controversial.
But we have whiskey in the glass. And pour number 2 is a 16-year-old from the Westport Distillery. Actually, it's not the Westport Distillery. We can't say what distillery it's from.
So allow me to ease us in, and then you'll give the game away wholeheartedly.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
But one of the interesting things...
Go slow. Be gentle. Prison shoulders.
I'm thinking about my childhood baseball team. That's very wrong. I shouldn't have said that. The one I cheered for as a younger man.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And so, when Joshua and I first started talking whiskey, for the most part, Joshua and I have very similar palates. And as we got into the business of selecting casks and building a membership and building a nation, there were things that we obviously fell in love with and put out together and signed off on. And one of the things that's always interesting to me is Joshua and I have a very different relationship with his favorite distillery.
It's not my favorite distillery.
10 years ago.
10 years ago was it?
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
I still I'm passionate about it. I still love it.
See, this reminds me of a time when I was a much younger man and I would watch the show Friends with my friends. And my grandmother got wind of me watching the show Friends with my friends.
All right.
And every Christmas for the next 5 years, she bought me a Friends-related gift. And I did not enjoy those gifts because other things happened in my life. I moved on. I moved away. This is getting controversial. The crowd is starting to turn right now. that anybody would have the audacity to turn away from Ross and Rachel, but I did. I did turn away from them. Right?
Will they, won't they? Yeah.
And I feel like I'm doing what my grandmother did, and so I'm...
They were on a break.
They were on a break, yeah.
So are you and Glenmorangie... Are you and Glenmorangie on a break?
Yeah, Glenmorangie and I are... Well, we're like friends with benefits, right? I'm not married to that distillery.
You're only over the brickwork?
Exactly.
Don't touch the still. It's very, very burning.
Charlie raised his hand. You need a microphone. You can't talk without a microphone.
So if it's an appropriate time, maybe we could get some tasting notes from our friends in Seattle.
Yeah.
Let's see if this actually works. Yeah.
So far, so bad.
Natalie and Liz, would you do the honor?
I don't know if it's going to
I'm
work.
going to go no. All right, never mind. I'll just read the notes.
I can't wait to edit that out of the podcast.
This was the point at which you were going to hear from Natalie and Liz. And then elevator music.
That was a great idea, Charlie. I'll just
Girl
read
from
it.
Ipanema just pops on.
So, Natalie and Liz, who no doubt would say this more eloquently than I, say that they get a big hit of coffee in the back of their throat from the Strathclyde, and that the palate is mostly herbal honey.
Ooh, an audible ooh from the crowd.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. I can
Natalie
see why
and
you
Liz.
wanted to hear that.
I'm going to
out loud.
stop
That was good.
screwing up the audio and let you guys get back to doing this. Yeah.
Interactive portion of the night.
Well, thank you to Natalie and Liz for the notes via Charlie. But it's one of those things that's always been of interest to me is that we can have such similar palates for the selecting of casks, and yet you can have a relationship with a distillery like Glenmorangie that's radically different from my relationship. And then we can have a selection like this, Westport, wink, that's then, I love this. I think this is a wonderful example of Glenmorangie. So what was it that drew you to Glenmorangie 10 years ago? What was so attractive?
So actually what drew me to Glenmorangie 15 years ago was... It was the first whiskey that taught me how to taste whiskey. I was drinking because the whiskey had a sweetness or a spice or a smokiness, and that was it. That's all I could detect. And then I remember sitting down, watching TV with my wife, and I had Glenmorangie Nectar d'Or, the Sauterne cask finish one. Lovely whiskey. And I changed the way I held the whiskey in my mouth. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I started tasting apricot and graham crackers and all of these flavors that were hitting me left, right, and center. And I said, wait a second, there's more to it than just, simpler tasting notes, which is just fine too, right? It's okay to like a whiskey because, man, that's a good bourbon, or man, that's a good Islay, right? But I could all of a sudden taste flavors, and that's what drew me in.
Interesting.
That's why I have the connection.
Interesting. So certainly as we're selecting casks, we're pinging back and forth on flavors, on textures. As you were talking there, and you talked about holding that whiskey in your mouth, this Westport has the type of texture that we look for in casks that we select for Single Cask Nation. And one of the things we've said, you talk about $1 million idea and talk about things you say 1 million times. A lot of independent bottlers look for colour in whiskey. Whiskey needs to be whiskey-coloured whiskey, right? In Scotland, we talk about an iron brew colour. Here you could talk about a Dr. Pepper colour. I don't know. It's a very different colour.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Pibbs,
Mr.
Moxie,
Pibbs, right? God, there's a whole line of them now.
RC Cola.
ours. I like how we've made it onto Loch Dew colouring now. Like we've gone from Iron Brew to Loch Dew. So Loch Doom. So we've never chased whiskey colours. And as the bottles sit beside us here, perfect for the podcast, there are a range of tones here, there are a range of colours here, but a deal breaker for Joshua and I is texture. And if a whiskey does not have texture on the palate, it could be as clear as water. We haven't said no to it yet. If it's got no texture on the palate, that relationship is over. And so to hear you talk about that being one of the things that drew you to, I nearly said Glenfiddich just for shits and giggles, but to Glenmorangie 15 years ago, if you're keeping score at home, 15 years ago, back when you were 6.
Yeah, back when I was 6.
What a time to be alive.
Back when my first daughter was born.
1993.
That's when you start drinking, when you start having kids, right?
You're not sleeping, so.
You're not sleeping. What else are you going to do?
There's a lot of kids home alone tonight.
Oh, we have a question from somewhere. Charlie?
No, this was actually for me. I'm curious because now that we're 11 years into this relationship, right? And it is in a lot of ways like a marriage. Was there ever a 7-year itch?
Oh, right.
We launched retail in year 7.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And partly that was when we started, it was just around the time that distilleries were stopping direct sales. Springbank famously tell us, if you'd come to us the year before, that's anybody hearing that at home? That is Michael Nolan once again. Drink some water, Michael Nolan, or some whiskey if you can find any. This is because Bonnie said you're not allowed to get drunk tonight. You're not drinking any whiskey for that frog in your throat. That's the problem.
It's a protest.
Body's rejecting the water. No, Tamara has taught me you never blame the wife for anything, ever. He's his own man. I know that. So Springbank famously said, if you'd come to us last year, we would have sold you casks. This year, we're not selling to you. And then we kind of kept going through the industry, and we knew that if we could build this business over the first 5 years, we knew that all of these stills being turned on across the industry in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, we would reach a point where we'd start to see more casks being available to us again. So we knew if we could hang on for 5 years. Once we then, so that would have been about 2015, 2016.
Correct.
Once we then got into 2017, actually the end of 2016, we were being offered more casks than we could simply sell into the nation, which is how we describe the online component of Single Cask Nation. So we were gaining access to more casks there, and so we needed another avenue for them. We needed another place to put them. And the fact that that then came in year 7, I think it satisfied an itch that we had for expansion.
See, I thought you were going to say, after year 7 and before, that was all over the clothes stuff.
There's a reason why I got itchy.
Yeah, okay.
I took off a wool sweater.
I remember, did at any point in the last 11 years where you guys I'm sick of this guy?
Charlie, we've answered the question.
Okay.
Talk about getting sick of a guy.
That's the lawyer.
It's a good question.
No, I don't think that we've ever even fought about a single issue. We've had disagreements. There's no doubt about it. And Jason's been wrong multiple times. Multiple times.
Only one of us has ever used a veto for a cask selection.
Only one of us is the CEO.
And only one of us had Bill Thomas at Jack Rose say, Joshua was wrong to veto that cask.
Checkmate. There you go.
Yeah. How many marriages have you broken up, Charlie?
This divorce will be televised. Hold on. I got to finish.
But no, it is true. And one of the things we've said, and again as part of that origin story, is when Joshua made that phone call Thanksgiving of 2010, he and I had been friends for 6 months.
Make that go away.
And so we'd only been friends for 6 months, and then we entered into this, $1 million business together that just started printing money from day one.
The sales just flowed in.
Phenomenally. Right, yeah.
How long did it take us to sell our Kilhoman? The only independently bottled Kilhoman with the Kilhoman name on it. How long did it take us?
23 months.
23 months. How much did we sell it for? $95.
Was it 95?
It was 75?
75?
I don't think so. Maybe you're right. I've learned I need to trust other people because I'm getting real old and forgetty. So
75 sounds...
Ben
Benria...
70. I remember that.
No, because the Glenelgin 18...
Oh,
this is all getting edited out of the
that's
podcast.
right, no.
The Glenelgin 18 was part of the second release, and that was 148.
And that was the most expensive
That was the
one we
most...
released,
I feel like 140 was the Benria 17-year-old. So there you go, Drammers. You're welcome to that little trip down pricing memory lane that nobody in this room gives a fuck about except for the three of us. Cheers to all of you. Before we move on, I just wanted to tie a bow to the Westport. As Mr. Glenmorangie 15 years ago, what do you think of that Westport selection?
So what I loved about this Westport, and I've got to be honest, we've been tasting Westport single casks since the beginning, despite Jason fighting me every inch of the way. All of them were really interesting, but what I wanted to do for Single Cask Nation was have a bottling that really represented that distillery and held true to the style. And most of the other ones, one of the good things about an independent bottling company is you're meant to bottle whiskey that's supposed to be a bit different from what the distillery does.
Yeah.
And so had that been my remit on this distillery, then we would have bottled a Westport a long time ago. But I really wanted something that was true to the distillery character and also had a bit more texture to it. Because like Jason said, we are texture guys, first and foremost. And that particular distillery, which has the tallest stills in Scotland, doesn't have the heaviest texture. This did, for whatever reason. So that's why I picked that one.
Yeah, we're looking at a second fill Oloroso sherry butt on this one. We also put a truncated label tasting note. Because it's retail, it's going to be sitting on a shelf. We want to have a few words in someone's ear when they pull this down off a shelf. And because it's called Westport, and we're not allowed to say the distillery name, and thankfully haven't this evening.
But you're being recorded.
The truncated label note says, the tallest stills in the industry are prevalent here with a soft, subtle, sophisticated sweetness that allows the sherry oak an opportunity to shine with pleasantly drying and nutty notes that balance the overall sweetness of the spirit.
You wrote that about me, actually.
And then I blow out the candle and you go off to sleep. It's just as simple as that. That's what we do. So yeah, it's a cracking cask. Anybody like the Westport?
Yeah.
There we go. Got some nods, some thumbs.
All right. Claps. I like that.
There we go.
So we're on whiskey number 3, and how many hours are we into this now?
Yeah.
So this is our Linkwood 12-year-old, and give a good look at the color on this whiskey.
Would you say it was gin-like?
I'd say it's like a barrel-aged gin. It's real pale. This is from a sherry butt, but it's from a refill sherry butt. And so I always talk about, and Jason's gonna, I may get in trouble for this one. I always talk about casks. I compare casks to tea bags.
Yeah, suitable response. Suitable response.
In that, if you wake up for your morning tea and you use a tea bag, you're tea bagging your water. The first time you use that tea bag, the color's nice and dark, the flavor is really rich, and you've got a wonderful cup of tea. If you may have run out of tea and need to make that bag go a long way, well, you do it again, right? You steep it again, but you have to steep it longer to get more flavor, and you still won't get as much color as you did the first time. And if you go a third time, you're just getting hot water. So a cask is kind of similar in that
the number of people in this room right now smirking while trying to be very serious whiskey connoisseurs is really quite telling, but you're pulling it off. Well done.
Yes, they're pulling it off, not me.
Well done, them.
And so, like a tea bag,
He said it again.
this is a refill. So this is a third-use cask. So even after 12 years of being in the cask, the spirit has not taken on any of the color of the wood because the color is pretty tired. It's not taking on much of the sherry cask influence, again, because the wood is pretty tired. But what we loved about this is the wood stepped back and let the spirit shine, the natural fruitiness of linkwood. And if you've had, raise your hand or scream, shout at the rooftops if you've had linkwood before.
Yeah.
All right, rooftops. That was very good. And so the standard linkwood you would get would be a Gordon MacPhail linkwood. They've got their 15-year and they've got their 25-year in beautiful, dark, rich colors. And that's typically the way you experience linkwood, dark, rich sherry. So we wanted to show another style of linkwood that you don't often get to experience, and that was more spirit-forward.
100%. I think linkwood is an absolutely cracking little dram. The brightness in it, the freshness in it. And I've said everything on the podcast that is able to be said. Poorly. It sounds like Joshua saying it.
More poorly this time.
But my now 12-year-old, Mr. 2010 himself, loves linkwood. And he's not a drinker of this stuff, please don't get me wrong. But he loves the nose. He loves the brightness, right? He loves the presence of that fruit. And I think linkwood, there's a word, when we lead whiskey tours of Scotland, there's a word we hear going around distilleries that isn't the best word, but I understand why they say it. You hear the word consistency. And every distiller is talking about consistency. And I feel like when you get into the world of linkwood, they have nailed consistency.
Yes.
That spirit from year to year to year is incredibly consistent. And you are looking for the cask to make the difference. Mm-hmm. And so even this refill Oloroso sherry butt, just like we experienced on the second fill with our Westport, is allowing, as you rightly say, Joshua, that spirit to come through, to shine through. And it allows us to make the point, and you can, not for those listening, but for those in the room, if you look at the credenza over here, pulling out a $10 word, it's probably not the right word, but you'll see how pale the linkwood is. Sideboard, pa.
It's a Davenport.
Pa. And so having a bottle that pale speaks to us not having a commitment to whiskey-colored whiskey.
Because the texture is there. And here's the thing, as an independent bottler, we don't have the luxury of presenting a consistent spirit character, right? We're not Kilhoman, we're not Lafroig, we're not Glenmorangie to put out something that you can always rely on having a similar character style. So as an independent bottler, what do we make our name on? What is our calling card? And our calling card is texture first.
Yeah. And then the C word.
Consistency.
Consistency. Yeah, and then consistency, right? And so we're not looking for consistent flavors from cask to cask to cask, but we want to be consistent in the quality of our selections. So that if you're buying something online from a store shelf without tasting, you need to know it's from Single Cask Nation. We're in good hands. Jason and Joshua have got us covered. Something's happening around me that's very distracting. Very distracting.
Sorry.
Question.
You've got to come here, though.
We've got a mic for questions. Please come down.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, please.
Loving the story so far on texture.
Cheers.
Is there a certain texture that you find is really in your wheelhouse? Like personally, I love a waxy mouthfeel, which are kind of rare to come across. Mm-hmm. Is there one for either of you?
Oh, I love that question. You go first, Jason.
Well, I'm actually going to tell a very quick story, which goes in line with this. That's brilliant. What was your name? Patrick. Cheers, Patrick.
Cheers. We have a common friend in New Zealand, Colin the Plural Mares.
Yes.
Colin the Pluralized Mares.
Colin the Plural Mares. Woo,
love
woo. Through Patrick. Cheers. Global community. And so, talking about that Benriach 17 that we fixed the price on earlier. when we first released that and we're pouring that at festivals or tastings, I would say to people, pay attention to the way the texture evolves here. It comes in quite creamy, and then as it dries, it becomes quite waxy. And people would kind of look at me, and I would say, you know, like your tongue feels after you've licked a candle. And you're nodding your head, Patrick and Paul, and I bless you both for that. People would look at me like they'd never licked a candle before. And Bonnie's hands in the air. Who hasn't licked a candle in their life?
Hasn't? Oh, yeah, there we go.
And so there's an evolving texture for that release a decade ago. And so I loved being able to say that to people. And I do remember saying it to somebody at a festival, at a tasting, and you could see that their mouth was doing exactly what I was describing. And it felt a little bit mystical in that moment. Like, how are you in my mouth? But then we're back to Joshua teabagging. So.
Yeah.
So talk about texture.
I can't follow that. I can only, answer with like actual. I mean, that was actual shit. But here we go. So, yeah, there you go. $95 for the Kilhoman. For those of you that want to rewind the podcast back by $145 for the Ben Riach.
Okay.
And we wanted
You're welcome, Drammers. You're welcome.
We wanted to go 148 on the Glen Elgin because we were afraid to go past the 150 mark.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Yes,
100%.
yes. So, Patrick, I love a good rich texture, and waxy, I think, can be wonderful. What I don't often find with waxy, though, is that kind of almost effervescent quality that comes along. And Serge Valentin, if anybody reads Whisky Fun, he talks about that effervescent quality as a nervousness, and I like that. It makes me feel like the whiskey's active, like it's a
Pop rocks, moon rocks.
Yeah, like pop rocks and moon rock. And so I like that. So I like
Cocaine.
that thicker texture, but a little bit of effervescence is really nice. And when I find that, I said, okay, there may be something here. And when we taste, this is, I don't know if we talk about this too often, but first we'll nose, like if we're selecting a cask, we'll nose the cask, see if we enjoy that nose ride, and we look for nasal texture. There is a thing called nasal texture, and we were vilified? Is vilified the word? No.
Nope.
Retrified?
No.
Martyred?
No.
We were martyred.
No.
Ridiculed?
No.
Validated. We were validated.
Yeah. 60% of the time he works every time.
We went to the Westland Distillery, and we went into the tasting room, and they have this 7 or 10 point thing that they follow when they're creating a whiskey, and one of the points is nasal texture. So really look for that. It's an interesting thing to look for, and when you discover nasal texture, you can't undiscover it. It just becomes a thing, and you'll be looking for it every time. Anyway, so what the hell was I saying?
Texture that you like.
Texture that I
You
like.
answered it. It's my turn to answer the question.
Vilified.
Storified. We didn't start the fire.
Yeah, so the tasting portion. So when we're selecting casks, we nose it first, right? So we're looking for that. Do we like the nose? Does it have good nasal texture? And then when we go to taste it, we don't look for flavor at all. The first taste is texture and nothing else. And if we like the texture, then we'll focus on the flavor, right?
100%.
Okay.
I really like juicy texture.
You son of a bitch.
Well, I started with a story, and then you riffed, and then I gave an answer. So
we have and Patrick, thank you again for the question. If anybody has a question, just raise a hand, and we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, come on down.
Here we go.
1988.
Come on down. Yeah, the next contestant on I was born in 1988.
It's like 93, but...
So this would be a two-part question.
Okay. Name first.
My name is Frank.
Hey, Frank.
From Chicago. And it would be, the first one, kind of a softball, but could be difficult for you. Sally's Frank Pepe's or modern.
No, don't do it,
and
Frank.
then along
Don't do it,
with
Frank.
that,
Don't do it, Frank.
So good.
well, the follow-up is
I'm in love with you right now.
You've bottled so many, casks over the years. Which bottle are you drinking while eating that slice?
Whoa! Wow, Frank, thank you. Are you from Connecticut, Frank?
I got family in the East Coast.
Okay, good. Those are good people. Yes, as are you. Thank you. Okay. So
I like that we keep asking people questions once they give us the microphone and walk away from it. So tell me this, good sir or madam.
So I'm gonna paint outside the box, and I'm gonna say that Bar is the better pizza. Bar is on Crown.
Frank's
and it's
making
right
a
across
face
the
right
street
now.
from Louis' Lunch, where the hamburger was invented. Yeah, exactly. And they make a mashed potato pizza that is to kill for. It's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. And what would I drink with a mashed potato pizza pie? You know what? I'm going to make Charlie really happy here.
A can of cream of mushroom soup?
No. Oh, my gosh. Really quickly, Frank, before I answer this question. The last live podcast we did, again, was with Charlie, and we're done with the podcast, and we're headed to the Comedy Cellar, and they said, oh, you've got to go to this artichoke pizza joint. And so, you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I like where this
Yeah, you like where this is going? Okay. And so we get a slice, and the slice was, about the size of a small child. It was very big, and arguably not as delicious. And it was like artichoke soup on matzah with shit crust. Charlie, what do you have to say for yourself?
He's nodding so far.
No, I mean, we're Joe's Pizza guys at Drammers in New York, but artichoke pizza is soup on bread. It's not pizza.
Yeah, soup on bread. Yeah.
That was really bad.
That was rough.
I'm a very generous pizza lover, and that did not work.
It's soup on bread. If you like soup and bread, it's good, but I wouldn't compare it to pizza.
So, to answer your question about which whiskey I would pour, I'm going to make Charlie happy because it would actually be a bourbon.
Hey, who called it? Someone called it out here. Michael Bloom called it. It's going to be a bourbon.
Yeah, so I would do a wild turkey with it. That's what I would do. Get some of that spice, and specifically a nutty one, to go against the buttery mashed potato. Oh, man. Heaven.
I'm glad we caught this coming out moment on camera. This is good. Yeah. Welcome. We were always waiting for you, Joshua.
With open arms.
There are people hanging up on the Zoom as we speak. There are people walking out the back door of this room.
So we have another whiskey in our glass for people.
By the way, Vino writes that some of the worst pizza he ever had was with you two in Glasgow at 2 a.m.
Yeah, checks. It was deep fried. I guarantee it was deep fried.
I don't know. Was I meant to give an answer to Frank's question? It seemed very Joshua specific.
Yes, Frank is clapping his hands and giving the 2 thumbs up.
The trouble is I didn't actually think about an answer before I asked if I could answer, so I too would choose what would I do with that? Potato pizza. Something came to mind and then it left me again, which is kind of how my days go now. This is great for the podcast, isn't it?
I can't remember what kind of pizza I like.
I would drink our Bunnahabhain 28-year-old.
Oh?
With that pizza.
That would work.
Because there's a delicate smokiness that plays off the heavy weight of the potato pizza.
Lovely.
Pulled that out of my ass, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
And
well
it didn't stink. That's the crazy thing.
Hey, mazel. All right. Number 1. Stick your nose in this glass and tell me you do not get Funyuns.
I was going to say, don't leave the witness.
Yeah.
Garlic, Funyuns.
Garlic?
Like fermented garlic.
Okay, Gil says fermented garlic. Garlic truffle fries, says Andrew Miller, the champagne of people. Beef jerky from Zach.
Huh?
I like caramelized bacon now.
Ooh. It is.
The call has come out from the huddled masses. Yeah.
So
Elijah, not to lead the witness too much, Elijah pointed to the ABV on this. before wandering around to pour it. Don't put naked lights near this one. Don't put naked anything near this one.
I can't even tell the ABV after smelling the nose. It's not even.
There we go. Paul says, don't even get the ABV after smelling this one.
Is this one when people are nosing this? Is it stabbing your nose? Does it burn your nose?
No,
it does. It doesn't. It doesn't hurt.
It like picks the nose out.
Okay, if a whiskey ever does do that, and I would argue this one doesn't, at least for me, but I always give a little puff of air into the glass, just a little, because that's going to dissipate the alcohol that's stabbing your nostrils.
No.
So we got Gil Matar.
I hate to say this, but it's sort of on the nose reminds me of the famous Sex Panther scene from Ron Burgundy.
Yes.
Anchorman.
You've got my attention.
It stings the nostrils.
And
Beautiful.
So long as you didn't use the line about Vindaloo in a diaper, then that's yeah.
and on
Burnt hair.
We got Charlie over here.
online, Natalie and Liz in Seattle say they're getting mushrooms and onion jam, and Elisa and Adam in Los Angeles say they get socks on this.
What type of socks?
Yeah, well, what type of socks,
Yeah,
Elisa and Adam? You got to be more specific here.
Yeah. Sometimes it's dirty gym socks.
And then Natalie and Liz add balsamic on the nose and everything bagel.
There you go.
Everything bagels. I love going to that bagel-y place because you get some of that yeastiness from it. Elijah mouthing, I love this, pointing at his glass from the sidelines. Because he lost his voice before we even started recording today.
Sure.
Not sure I believe him.
Sure.
Not sure I believe him.
So what are we thinking of this whiskey here?
Tell me
Make
his
a loud
pungent.
noise if you don't like it. Whoa. So this, we got
Got a couple of squeaks.
some squeaks.
Good. Thank you.
This is one of the few times where we've picked a cask and we said there's a good chance some people will not like this, right? Like we did with our Westland.
100%. Is this also the Craigellachie that we selected it and then months went by and it came into the country and you got a bottle at your house and you called me up, texted me and said, this is not the Craigellachie we selected.
100%.
It's this one?
Yes.
So you remembered this being dirtier peat
Yes.
on this.
Correct.
And then it came in really pungent and oniony and
Yeah.
I love the onion jam note from Natalie and Liz, of course.
Yeah.
That's a spot-on note.
We got another thing from Charlie here.
Yes,
This,
Charlie.
so Ezra actually mentioned this, but she's 100% spot on. Did I ever make you guys try the Chopin, the potato distillate, where they only distill it once up to 60%, the Mlody Ziemniak? This tastes
They've had it.
exactly like that.
Oh, interesting.
wow.
A potato distillate up to 60%.
It's essentially would be a vodka, but single
Yeah.
distilled up to 60%. They call it Mlody Ziemniak in Poland.
Wow.
And Ezra nailed it. It tastes exactly like this.
Wow. Well done, Ezra. Who's Ezra? Give us a wave.
Yeah, oh, all right.
Well done.
It's like Single Potato Nation.
Gosh, you got you got a young Celtic man in front of you. I'll take anything potato.
Young?
Gosh. Once it came out of my mouth, I knew I'd said the wrong word, but in for a penny, old fuck.
Are we back to the teabagging? Sorry, go on, Charlie.
Josh in
Did we ever
Connecticut.
leave it?
Josh in Connecticut says, not sure about the rest of you, but the Craigellachie is his favorite so far. He loves the savory notes.
Yeah.
Beauty.
I think savory is the note of the day.
Yeah.
Is this the one that on the notes? I don't know if we talked about the ramen on this one. Oh, this is a long truncated. You know we've enjoyed a cask when it gets a long truncated tasting note. Known for its typically heavy style of whiskey, this Craigellachie falls right into line. Its departure, however, I enjoyed that because I was on a plane today and tomorrow. Its departure, however, is in the heavily peated character of this spirit. Dank, we celebrate when we get to write dank in any tasting note. It makes us very happy.
Followed by nugs sometimes.
Dank and pungent with earthy smoke, however. However, don't fret. Rich fruits, an oily mouthfeel, and a bread-like malty backbone remain. Then we feed right into the bagel note, as mentioned by
Little everything
Natalie
bagel.
and Liz again, right?
Beautiful.
Theirs is an everything bagel. Mine's an onion bagel. They've got onion jam on their everything bagel. And we actually never said the... I don't know if I can...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I can read the ABV.
What ABV? What do you think the ABV is here? Give it a shout.
64.3.
Okay.
64. 67 says the champagne.
Did you tell them?
Anybody else? Anybody else want to take a guess at the ABV? 1.
46 in the back.
46?
46 in the back.
Okay, so 46 in the back. Patrick, right? Yep. Says 1%. He's taking the Price is Right approach.
rules.
Yeah, that checks out.
Can't lose for going over. Do you know the answer?
I know it's high.
Yeah. It is 67.3.
67.3. And this, ladies and gents, this gets us back to the texture. This is why we enjoy texture, because that rich, oily texture protects your tongue. That's what we're looking for. That's how you can drink a 67.6 without igniting on fire immediately.
It is. It's the oils.
We're about to pour the penultimate whiskey.
Can I heckle a little bit here? Because
Please.
this is a big moment, right? The 10-year anniversary observed. And we have
thank you for that.
We have very little reflections on the last 10 years in the last half hour. Can we look back a little bit? What's the barrel that got away? What was the path not taken that you almost did? Let's take a bigger look back. This is a big moment. To hell with this whiskey.
He's lovely. I like him. I like that Charlie a lot. We did lose at least one cast. No, actually multiples.
I think we lost some audience members.
I think we lost some audience members too. Those were Joshua's words, not mine. Yeah. Scots people don't speak like that. Connecticut. You and Frank. So we did. So we've lost a few casts, but we'll continue that story later in the year. But we did. We had a Glenmurray that we selected that we loved, that was fruity, was ex-bourbon.
Remarkable.
Did exactly what we always wanted Glenmurray to do. And they accidentally released it, and it went into just one of their vattings for one of their aged malts. So diluted down to 40%, 43%. So.
Yes.
But then they had said, oh, well, let us send you some samples that are representative of an ilk. And we thought they were very, very, very good.
Yes.
So we lost that one.
Yep.
We lost some others when a broker sold. But that's a story we'll continue.
Yes, that is a story we'll continue.
The one for me is what I said to you earlier tonight, which was Springbank were selling casks until the year before we started this company. Like, nothing makes you want to jump off a tall building than Springbank telling you 365 days ago we could have sold you one.
I will say, in 2012, we bottled a 15-year-old Heaven Hill for Jubilee. That was our first festival. 2013, sorry.
Nods, oohs, groans happening around the room.
And that was remarkable. They approached us. They wanted to sell to us, right? Because it was the whiskey Jubilee, and they're the Jewish-owned bourbon distillery, right? And they said we'd love to be a bigger part of this. So we selected a cask from them, and then in 2014, bourbon kind of really started taking off.
We could say even dominated the company.
But you could say it teabagged the company. You could say that.
Wow. But I'd say that's not just the cask that got away. That's the distillery that got away, right?
Yeah, that's a good observation.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Well, how about this then? If you were going to give advice to your Single Cask Nation first-year selves, what would it be?
Start a year earlier. You're already too late. But here's the honest answer, and we've covered this in other episodes as well, where we dealt with what we had in front of us, we took care of what we had in front of us, and we took advantage to some degree of what was available to us. Could we have laid down more casks? Yes. Absolutely. But just like we're talking about the cash flow connected to a cask of Kilchoman or Benriach or Glenelgin. We were swinging for casks that we thought were exceptional and would have a place with the nation regardless of that increased price. And so, did we tie up cash flow? Yes. Could we have bottled younger stuff and got some cash in and laid down some other things? Yes. But did we bottle the casks that we absolutely wanted to bottle? Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Michael Bloom. Thank you. I've always lived for a spontaneous applause moment. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Students Good for you guys.
Students never gave me nearly as many rounds of applause in the classroom as I thought I deserved. So, thank you, Michael Bloom. What about you? Is there advice looking back 10 years in the rear view mirror?
See, this is the part where I feel like Charlie's just setting it up for me to say things that I wish I would never say. Because I'm going to fucking talk about bourbon. I love bourbon. I do love bourbon, Charlie.
We never doubted it.
It's my 7th favorite drink.
You made that exact joke in the last live podcast with Drammers. Like, you dusted that one off.
Here's the thing. It's not a joke. That's just a factual statement.
Jason, it's been 2 years. No one remembers that, you know?
A long 2 years.
I would have suggested that we buy more and bottle more bourbon earlier.
You've broken them, Charlie. Yeah. You've broken them. The pandemic has broken them.
And here's the thing.
I'm going to be gracious on this. I'm just going to let that sit.
It's for a very simple reason. Like, Jason, Jason, I think, illustrated it perfectly. I felt like we were Tarzan, swinging from one cask to the next, and that was our cash flow. We never really had the extra cash flow to go a little crazy, to lay down spirit, to come up with a re-racking program where we can modify the spirits, one way or the other. But if we purchased and bottled more bourbon and sold more of that for a fair price, always for a fair price, that's another thing that we do, always fair price, we would have more cash flow to do more with our first love, which is malt whiskey. So that was both a compliment, but a little backhanded with the preferred spirit.
I wish we hadn't sold any bottles of the 15-year-old single barrel Heaven Hill. I feel like that was a mistake. We have a photo, and we've shared it with the nation, where I think there's maybe 8 or 12 of those
12 of them
lined up on your deck rail in Connecticut, and just thinking, what is on that rail now?
Well, while we're on this point, right, I was thinking about our old podcast about the bourbon and scotch and everything. And, given that bourbon can only be distilled up to 80% and scotch can be distilled up to 94.8%, is it fair to say that scotch is more vodka-esque?
Wow. First he comes...
This show is over.
Wow. First he comes for Joshua, and then he comes for Jason. Nobody comes for Jason. Paul has a question. Please come.
No, you need a microphone. You need a microphone, Paul.
You weren't going to put a dagger in me, Paul. Those eyes only say love.
I was actually just going to ask Charlie why he hates flavor. But...
Yeah, why do you hate a diversity of flavor?
Why do you hate flavor?
People associate higher distilled alcohol with more flavor. That's true, yeah.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, those numbers, you're also talking about grain whiskey versus single malt scotch. So I feel like we were...
rules are rules, my friend.
Purposely creating a straw man on that one.
Should we talk about this whiskey?
We should talk about literally anything else. What is this whiskey?
So this whiskey, we have left Scotland to go to Israel, and we have our 3-year-old M&H, peated M&H, distilled in September 2017, bottled May of 2021. 59.3. This is a first fill bourbon, but this was the first time and the only time that I'm aware of where M&H allowed their peated spirit to be bottled by itself, because most of what M&H does is they'll put their whiskey into casks that previously held Ardbeg or Lefroy or some Islay distillate. And so this is their actual peated spirit.
Do you need to be rebooted?
No, I'm just...
I get it.
So give this a nose, give this a taste. One of the things that I find so interesting about this particular M&H is this is not Scottish peated malted barley. This is sourced from the Czech Republic. So this is Czech barley, Czech peat, and so very different from a peated Scotch. And I think that was part of their approach. Now, they do source peated barley from Scotland, but this one is specifically Czech peat.
You could say check yourself before you wreck yourself?
Check yourself before you wreck it. Thank you. Checkmate.
So sorry, did you say they do the malting themselves as well, or it's malted in the Czech?
So for the listeners here, the question from Patrick, friend of the pluralized mayors, asked if M&H do their own malting or if they buy in the malted barley, and they buy in the malted barley. Most, especially in Israel, there's like M&H started whiskey distilling in Israel. It didn't exist before, so there was no malting happening in Israel.
But I think it's so interesting. You know, if you're anything like me and you've gone through Scotch circles and you've told your friends who are trying to get into this, there's a difference between Highland peat and Islay peat, and here's the differences, and here's the nose, and here's the flavours, and many of you are nodding your head right now. To then walk in the door and have Czech peat. How many times have you had Czech peat before this moment? Less than 20. Right, exactly.
I think if Patrick said one, he would have gone over. Price is Right doesn't work here.
Question, come grab a mic.
Come on down.
Name and then question.
Dun, dun, dun.
My name is Jacob. And,
Hi, Jacob.
I have two quick questions, I hope.
You sound like Joshua.
First, at what point do you buy barrels right before they're bottled, or at what point do you buy? It seems like you were saying before, talking about the observing it maturing. So I'm wondering when you buy the bottle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that
is that part one.
Was there two parts?
Did for you the moment,
there is a second question.
Oh, okay. Oh, so we must answer the first one.
Okay. So, yes.
Yeah, have a seat.
Part two. So, yeah, we've talked about this for years. When we first started, we were cherry picking casks, and so the stories that we get to tell from 8, 9, 10 years ago, going into distilleries, us being presented with samples or casks, and being told, "This is ready for sale. If you want this, it's yours for a price." And we would start tasting that. As time has gone along, we have started laying down some new make spirit, sometimes into casks. I know we're at pro level. So, for example, when we mentioned earlier about the Arran that was 8 years bourbon and 4 years Pinot Noir, we then took that empty cask and put lightly peated Arran new make into that cask. And it's interesting, James Saxon, who's one of the blenders with Compass Box, had written a post online talking about Single Cask Nation doing this kind of internal universe where we like to take casks that we've bottled, that we've told one story about, and then put new make into those or finish something in them to then continue telling additional layers of a story. And so we've got this kind of internal working. So for example, you mentioned it earlier, the Catoctin Creek rye that was finished in the Kilchoman, we then took that empty cask and put new make Catoctin Creek in that. So in a year, 18 months, 2 years, the Angels are a little bit rowdy down in eastern, where is it? Central Northern Virginia. They're greedy down there. I don't know how many years we're going to get out of that, but there's a continuation of that story that we were telling in 2022. So we like having those opportunities. And then the third and final part to the answer is we've also got a re-racking program going on in Scotland. It's much more difficult when you're not on site doing that, and you're putting in requests. Thankfully, we have Jess in Glasgow. She does a lot of work on the re-racking program for us. And so it's another way to, like Joshua was saying earlier, take spirits that are high quality, but add a cask layer to them that is then...
Or even not so high quality.
Caution.
Well, no, I mean...
Caution.
So my point is...
You would still, but here's the thing.
Go ahead.
You would still say the spirit was quality, even if the maturation
correct. The spirit is
hadn't
quality.
gone anywhere.
It just hasn't reached a flavor that we're looking for, or like a flavor ride we're looking for.
We can't take poor spirit and put it into good wood and come out with good whiskey.
You can't. No, that is 100% correct. You cannot. But we're at a point now, thank God, where we still cherry pick casks, but we're at a point right now.
He's one of our funders, right?
What's that?
He's one of our funders?
Who, God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cherry.
Out of Israel?
We're at a point now where we buy far more casks than we cherry pick. We still cherry pick, but we've got certain contracts in place where we're buying casks, and you buy it with the sense of you get what you get and you don't get upset, right? It's a good price. You bring it into your warehouse, you get a sample of it, you see where it is. Is it ready for bottling? Yes or no? If it's not, then it goes into our re-racking program, and then we work on it. It's always quality. It's always decent spirit, but sometimes it's a one-note, like a one-trick pony or something like that.
Can we go part two before we come over here, or you want to go over here right now?
This is real short. Just Mark, who's dialed all the way in from Brasilia in Brazil, says that this 3-year-old is amazingly complex, maybe the most satisfying very young whiskey he's ever had.
Damn!
That
Cheers!
is brilliant. Someone back there fell out of their seat after hearing that.
But I think just very quickly, and then we'll come back to part two with Jacob, but I think Mark here in Brazil, I think is hitting the nail on the head, which is just like we did with our Kilchoman 4-year-old back in the day, just like we did with our Virginia Distilling Company 5-year-old today, just like we did with our Milk and Honey, our M&H 3-year-old, whiskey can be very good at those ridiculous, I'm using air quotes here, those ridiculous young ages. We've just never been trained to accept whiskey at those quote-unquote ridiculous young ages. So the fact that Mark's tasting that with an open palate and an honest heart, cheers.
Hashem bless him. That's what I say.
That's what they say in Brazil.
Yeah, that's what they say in Brazil.
Pele was known for saying that.
And this is related to that. I believe I've seen some other of your M&H picks that are even younger than 3 years.
Yes. Yep.
So my question is is there a lower limit or?
Well, yeah. So first off, if it's Scotch, we couldn't bottle it, right? So unless it's 3 years or up. But we've done 2-year-olds from Westland, 2-year-olds from Catoctin Creek, and those were shining bright. They were gorgeous. I would argue our Catoctin Creek 2-year-old is likely the best rye we've ever bottled.
I don't like declarative statements like that.
The best Virginia rye that we've ever bottled. It was the best 2-year-old
so
Virginia rye from...
See, is it cracking? 100%. 100%. It's absolutely cracking. Do I love it?
Yeah.
Yep. Do I drink it of an evening? Would I drink it with potato pizza?
The answer is yes.
I became Dr. Seuss-like there, didn't I? Would I drink it with a pizza? Would I have it in a library? That doesn't rhyme.
It doesn't rhyme.
The answer is no.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, where are we at? Is Elijah pouring?
Yeah, so...
Elijah poured.
Yeah, so Elijah's going around, and he's pouring you... What's happening? Oh, hold on.
I'm ready. Thank you.
So Elijah's going around, and he's pouring a 15-year-old Inchfad. And so Inchfad is a spirit produced by Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond produces 14 different kinds of distillate across their 3 different kinds of stills: column stills, Lomond stills, and pot stills. And this is their double distilled, heavily peated spirit from their Lomond stills. But this one, I think, does a really good job of illustrating what Jason was talking about, where we use casks that we've previously used and give them new life. So with this one, we got this cask, a 15-year-old Inchfad that was good. But we had just bottled a Penderyn 8-year-old that cask was Grand Cru Bordeaux. And so we put the heavily peated Inchvad into a cask that was Grand Cru Bordeaux that previously held hyper fruity Penderyn whiskey. And so that's what we're looking for, right? That's the balance we're looking for.
It doesn't drink like a heavily peated.
Doesn't drink like a heavily
Doesn't
peated.
drink like a
Patrick.
heavily peated. I like that.
I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's a softer pungency, a softer onion bagel. This is like a pro-made onion bagel and not a supermarket pre-sliced stuff. This is a pro onion bagel. It's also quite fruity. Yeah, with some apricots, says Bonnie Nolan.
Saying apricots, I like that.
It's onion and apricot marmalade.
Onion and apricot marmalade.
Wow.
No argument from me.
I would take that.
I'm on board. Put that in a bagel. I'm your man. Oh, that. So this is a thing that we say at tastings early and often, is we will go months, and in the last couple of years, between selecting a cask, bottling a cask, having it available for sale. There are casks that we don't even taste. Like this Westport, I'm tasting it with you for the second time since we selected it, right? This Inchvad, I don't have a bottle of this in my house.
Oh, because it's the retail. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I haven't been doing tastings.
Look at Elijah.
Of this.
He's shaking his head with.
But go on, Elijah. Come on in. The water's lovely. The water's lovely.
Elijah.
So, briefly, my history with Single Cask Nation, my first love with Single Cask Nation was the retail releases. That was my first exposure. And something that makes me very proud about this Inchvad is the bridging, and you might have mentioned this earlier, but the bridging of the online release with the Penderyn and the retail release. I think sometimes there's, people are exposed one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I think that's selling and tasting and sharing these whiskeys with the nation that are like projects that we worked on and like came to fruition gets me really excited. So this is a special pour, and shame on you for not having a bottle.
I know, right? 100% shame on me, but I think this is 100% what we were saying to Jacob over here.
Someone with a really small penis is outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
It is also a really small bicycle. He's actually just making those noises with his mouth. Yeah, he's on one of those scooters that you rent. I don't know what he's doing.
Two people just left to go to a Justin Bieber concert, so obviously you guys.
Wow.
Oh, was that them?
Is that their ride?
Justin Bieber?
Wow, two people left to go to a Justin Bieber concert, and that's their ride. Okay.
I like that with this group, we're beating Justin Bieber.
Wow, what a marriage.
Cheers.
But Jacob, to your point here, and exactly to what Elijah reminded us here, is that Penderyn that was online, that was remarkably successful and sold out in 4 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes for a Welsh single malt. To be able to take that and continue telling an online story and bring it into retail and have Nation members who follow Nation releases the way that Michael Nolan does, the way that Debbie does, right? The way that multiple people in this room do, right? It allows us to feed a little bit back into that nerdom while bringing out that singular moment in time. And again, I'm not trying to use the word unique, but, clearly taking our Grand Cru Bordeaux Penderyn cask. Well, suddenly got very loud. Did you turn me way up?
No, I did turn you up a little bit.
Wow.
Just in case.
Whoever went to the Justin
really
Bieber
loud.
concert was making a ton of noise because it just got really quiet in here. So, but that's the continuation, Jacob, right? And so you can see that like Single Cask Nation universe folding in within itself. Paul, you had a question?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, can Paul get a question?
Yeah, Paul.
Come on, Paul.
With a question, and then
Nolan's sober. He's not going to tell us what to do. He's not going to tell us what to do.
This was actually a suggestion.
Oh, right.
I think the word we're looking for may be distinct as an analog of unique.
Distinct. Look at the big thesaurus on Paul. Thank you, sir.
Distinct. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, that will lead us into our next segment beautifully.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And we're ready if you are, Charlie.
Okay. Charlie, you're going to need your microphone for this.
It's all right. It's right here.
So we really wanted to do something special to celebrate the 10-year, or at least 10-year observed celebration of Single Cask Nation. So we'd been talking with Elijah for a while about doing a Drammers single barrel of Single Cask Nation, and I understand that you actually picked this out for us.
I did indeed.
You wanna reveal the good news?
No.
And that's all we're going to have for tonight. Thank you, guys.
That's far too much pressure. You reveal the news.
So, thanks to, because I got a lot of free hands. That's cool.
We can take glasses out of your hands. You don't need to
all right.
all of these.
Thanks to...
Here, I'll hold it.
All right, I got it. These guys very generously are going to let us get the opportunity to buy this Inchgauer distilled in 2011.
Yeah, which one?
November, and it was drawn in, looks like March or May of 22. So just a little bit over 10 years. It was matured in a sherry hogshead. And so I thought maybe to do the honors to kind of give the sign-off, could I invite Michael and Elhan to come up here and... say we're giving the thumbs up on this. I'll get one more glass for it.
All right. So Ilhan and Michael are sauntering up. So Ilhan, there's a mic for you. And then Michael.
It feels strange not having Charlie involved in this.
Exactly.
Charlie ran off.
Charlie.
Come on, let's share it. Come on.
All right.
So what do we do now? Do we get undressed?
I don't know.
That's never happened between all of us.
No,
never.
It seems natural. Yeah. I'll go anywhere with this guy. All right.
That's dangerous.
What'd you get? What'd you get on the nose?
Cherries.
Oh, cherries.
Rich,
I like that.
syrupy,
Very syrupy, good weight to it, good heft.
Oh, there's a...
Color's
Oh my
ridiculous.
gosh.
Not color people.
I'm getting a
It looks like
childhood
cherry.
memory of grape soda.
Jason and Joshua, maybe giving a little context to this, because I know it said sherry hogshead, but this was first matured in refill bourbon, and then we, Single Cask Nation, transferred this into a first fill sherry hogshead.
Specifically Spanish oak.
From Miguel Martin.
Yeah,
So, special cask here.
But I think when you pass the sherry and the richness, I get like a Grand Marnier. There's like an orange liqueur at the back. You know, I feel.
Wait till you taste it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't taste it yet.
Yeah, I know. That's what I say. Wait till you taste it.
What were you saying, Charlie?
I'd say part of what gives me a lot of comfort is it looks like a bourbon.
Thank God it doesn't taste like one. Thank God.
Elijah will tell you in the conversation we had, I said, I've got a single malt scotch that looks just like a bourbon that will be perfect for Charlie.
Charlie, it tastes a lot better.
That's
than
the
bourbon.
best compliment for a bourbon. It looks kind of like this, and that's where it ends. You know?
Yeah, the nose, though, with the cherry on the nose,
Yeah.
I would say the cherry could be a crossover point for a bourbon.
Stag Junior in a second. Yeah.
Right? He just said it could be Stag Junior.
All right. There you go.
I didn't get it.
Strength.
All right. So are we about to taste it? I haven't tasted
I-
it yet.
The whole time, yeah.
I'm not
I
going
dove
to lie.
into it.
I have not tasted this since it's been in the sherry cask, so this is a first.
Yeah, it's rich. It's unctuous. The wood again, just like on the nose, where there's the sherry, but it doesn't overtake the spirit. On the palate, there's wood, but it doesn't overtake the spirit.
Every
So
time I'm going to
frames.
drink this, I'm going to picture Jason licking a candle, I think.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say you were going to picture Jason naked, but you know.
Well, it's all, you know.
So
dangerously close to that.
what I love about this particular cask, having just tasted it for the first time, personally, is scream to the rooftops if you've had an Inchgauer before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So 3 people raised their hands. Here's the thing about Inchgour Spirit, is it has an incense quality to it. It's like an Indian spice bazaar with incense.
Yeah.
And that character still comes through despite the sherry influence, despite that bourbon-like color to it.
Yeah, Inchgour is both spicy and malty, and I think your sense of incense is spot on. It speaks to that spice of it. Yeah. But again, we've got other casks of Inchgour that are far spicier than this. This one, I think, it plays so nicely with other flavors that everything comes together. We talked about that with the Catoctin Creek back when we were sampling from the cask. There were moments when it hadn't fully come together. This shows that moment when you get a full 360-degree pizza pie.
Yeah,
and all the components are working together.
There you go.
What I like also about this is layered. This is changing. Like if it sits in the glass, I don't get the same nose that I was getting.
Absolutely.
It has different flavors built to it. It's a complex, very, very beautiful whiskey.
Cheers.
So the question is, when do Elhan and Mies have to start writing checks to get bottles?
I know it's always hard to tell. When do you guess this will arrive?
Fall. The question was, when do we guess this will arrive? Fall will be if all the stars align. There's no reason why those stars wouldn't
fall
align.
Fall of 2022, right?
I didn't say a year. Yeah, I didn't say a year.
I knew there was a.
All right, so I guess then Elhan and Michael, what do you say? Should we take it?
I think it's sold already. I
think it's already sold out.
If Drammers doesn't take it, these guys are going to bottle it.
Exactly. No, honestly, though,
thank you. We're
honestly, it's a huge honor for us to be able to do that and celebrate your guys' 10/11 years, and really, thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy anniversary, dear.
Happy anniversary, dear.
Everyone, one more second, because we're pouring an extra pour, which people online will not have.
Sorry on people online.
But this is for my personal collection, and I brought it tonight so that I could carry on a tradition from One Nation that Jason has started, and it's a game he's been playing with Michael Jackson's book, but I'm taking a little twist on it. Tonight it's going to be called What's Your Whiskey? Name your whiskey, I should say. Name your whiskey.
Oh boy, name your whiskey.
So tell us, we have to name the distillery?
I'm not going to tell you anything more.
It's your whiskey.
I can tell you this much. You put it in a bottle.
Oh no, this is Single Cask Nation?
This is Single Cask Nation.
No,
so
I have already embarrassed myself in LA doing this. And now I'm going to embarrass myself in Chicago doing this.
I was going to let you take a nose off of it.
Do you have a clean glass? Because I just did the Inchgour in heavy sherry.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Is that the glass?
Can we call this?
You start nosing it, and then we'll go from there.
Can we, Charlie, really quickly, can we name this Drammers and the Angry Inchgour? Yes. All right.
Charlie, I like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that was good.
Thank you. I'd say I'm here all week, but I'm not. I fly home on the Friday.
Elhan gave me his glass, and so I've got this.
All right,
I've got
so
that. I can't believe you're doing this to us, Nolan. This is the coolest fucking shit
This is
going.
a Single Cask Nation bottling. And I'll tell you more as we go on, but I want to start with nose it and let me know what you think.
Okay.
So it's obviously peated.
Peated?
So I saved it for the end for that.
Okay.
It's Highland peat. It's not Isla peat.
Oh, that's said with far too much confidence. What have we learned from our blind tastings, Joshua? Is we say nothing with full confidence.
I have the confidence of a middle-aged white man.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's overflowing.
Good nasal texture.
Elijah's already given me guesses in the background here, so.
What did you think, Elijah? What did you think?
Michael.
Elijah knows our catalog better than we do.
I'm guessing the Laughing Frog 28 year.
Oh, interesting.
Nope.
Oh, that didn't come to my mind. No.
I don't think so, but now you have me totally second guessing.
Totally wrong.
Maybe it totally is.
I was going to ask if it was laughing, but
yeah,
it's not.
Oh, shit.
So Paul, the first hint for the evening is this is a whiskey you have not had.
Oh, jeez.
And I can give other hints, but I'm worried that I'm going to give it away.
Okay.
So.
Hold on.
I'm surprised.
I went in for the tea.
Are you still confident in your Highland P?
I'm not.
You really owned that.
I really did. I need to stop owning things.
100%. I've been telling you this for years. Stop owning this company.
You've got to waffle like a philosopher.
You have to waffle like a philosopher.
This is more near your territory.
I would say fuck that guy, but fuck Paul. All right.
I knew this was going to be difficult, and I did pick a difficult whiskey.
The ABV on it seems to be high 40s and potentially very low 50s. Would that be fair?
No comment.
Ah, Jesus. You got to lead the witness.
It's in my head.
So, who? Oh, it's Patrick.
It's
So
not
Patrick,
bourbon. Very good. very good.
You had asked before about what textures we like. This has that oily texture with that effervescent thing going on. This is, I know why we selected this one.
Not to lead the witness, but my mind is moving towards one of our Lafroigs.
Okay.
One of our
Interesting.
Lafroigs.
I feel like Elijah is leading the witness.
But I already answered
Not
that
that
question.
one.
No, it's not. It's not one of our young. Oh, it's not one of our younger. Shit, I'm making a
Do you
very
remember
declarative
our
statement.
10-year-old for retail?
Yes, but that was a fruit bomb. I'm not getting the massive fruit on
But
this.
you're not getting coastal sea breeze either.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's a confusing whiskey, intentionally picked for that reason.
Fuck you. You coughed all the way through the recording and then you picked a purposely difficult whiskey for us?
That's why you love me.
Son of a bitch.
That is why I love you, Michael Nolan. Michael Dad Nolan.
This is a beautiful whiskey, though. I mean, it's really
It is.
just
I
it's so elegant.
I would say I would bottle this again.
Well, I know that.
Have I had it before?
Yeah, you have.
Okay, I have had it before.
Yes.
We have had this. Right?
Yes, we have. We have had this.
So we have
you
had
have
this.
bottled this. You
Okay.
have had this. Yes.
Isn't that from some random cast sample I sent you?
Bloom might have had this, but I don't think anyone else in this room. has.
Okay, so you break it out for special occasions.
I opened this bottle for tonight to share with everyone.
Oh, you just opened.
So he's had one from someone else's bottle.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you how many bottles are released because that would also give away the show.
I would not help in the slightest.
It would help me because I
If you
remember
told me
numbers.
the price on it, that would help a whole lot.
If I told you the price, you'd know it instantly.
Is it in the 160 realm?
I don't know.
I'm gonna go down in flames. I'm gonna stick to this being our Lafroig 10.
I'm gonna.
That's
okay.
interesting.
I'm going to give you the next
Yeah.
clue. The next
Yeah.
clue.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a blended whiskey.
Okay, I know what it is. I know what it is, and only thanks to Elijah.
Is this the blended malt 9 from Williamson?
This is not a blended Walt 9 from Williamson. No.
No. That's why it's
No.
so confusing.
This is a blended whiskey
No.
that I was
No.
a part of helping the blend.
Holy shit. Okay. Wow.
So is this the Great Isla Swim?
Yeah.
To 2017.
So ladies and gents, yes.
Now
yeah,
tell the
please,
story.
clap
Tell
your hands.
the story behind it.
Clap your hands. That is remarkable. So listen, in 2017, hold on. In 2022, I hugged Michael Nolan, or I tried to. He just walked away from me. That's cool. Oh, hug Bonnie. Come here, Bonnie.
You want to talk about a near divorce night, Charlie?
Wow.
This would be a night I could tell you about.
So in 2017, Jason and I sponsored 3 swimmers to swim around Isla. It's a 100-mile swim around the island. And the idea is they did it over 8 days. And each day they collected whiskey from all 8 Isla distilleries. And we put all of that whiskey together into a Kilhoman quarter cask. I will tell you some of the things that are in this blend. 17-year-old triple distilled Bruichladdich from a PX cask, 10-year-old Kilchoman from a first fill bourbon barrel. What else is in there?
There's a lot of Ardbeg in there.
I'll be honest, I wasn't listening because Michael Nolan was giving me the package.
By the way, Benno points out it was 2 people because Johnny was there too. 2 swimmers.
Three swimmers.
3 swimmers.
Yeah, no, 3 swimmers.
But Johnny
That's
was
what I
one
said,
of them.
3 swimmers.
Johnny made the third. Benno, come on.
Come on, dude.
Johnny made the third. He wasn't scheduled. He became the third. Benno, do better.
And so listen, we would not have been able to do this if we didn't bring people like Michael onto the Great Isla Swim Tour and like Benno, like Lindo and many others. And Ben Weldy, and we did not make a single penny off this. All of the profit was given to RNLI Isla, Royal National Lifeboat Institute for Isla. So,
like I was saying to Michael Bloom earlier, I've lived my entire life for a spontaneous round of applause. Joshua and I, on Isla, filled out a giant check. And we took it to the guys at the RNLI, who are just salt of the earth Isla dudes who go out in boats and rescue people at sea. And they were like, the fuck are you doing with the big check? And to their credit, they said, let's go take a photo next to the lifeboat. And we have the photo next to the lifeboat. I didn't double check the packaging.
I think it's in the package.
Might be
so yeah, please check out the
Oh no, it
the
can be.
packaging.
It can be because we took the photo when we presented the check and the bottles on Isla.
Sure. Well, anyway, check out the packaging either way.
Check out your package.
Hey now. Oh, there, for the hug.
I thought it'd be a fun bottle to bring out tonight. So.
A very fun
Thank
bottle.
you.
Yeah, it's not one that we drink on an everyday basis. So
listen. Oh, my daughter's calling me. Uh-oh.
She's saying, Dad, it's time to end the podcast.
So listen,
People
everybody.
at Drammers are posting on
please,
social media.
I need everybody's attention. Please, please, please give a round of applause to Warehouse Liquors, Zach Ryhier, Gene Sharness. Thank you so much for taking up far too much time here. Give a round of applause for Drammers, for Charlie, for Michael, for Ilhan, for our own beloved Elijah in Seattle.
Well, and especially to Elhan, who really took the lead in setting up tonight.
Cheers,
Yeah.
Elhan.
The head of our
so
Chicago
much.
chapter.
Thank you.
And then finally, give a round of applause for yourselves. Thank you so much
Cheers,
for coming
Drammers.
out. And to you, online, we thank you. That's it.
Two chins.
Two chins.